my sewing, the good, the bad and the ugly. I've got a really fun video for you today and I really hope you'll enjoy it. 5 of my good points, 5 of my bad points and 1 ugly point. So welcome to my sewing room. My name is Carole and I've been wanting to do this video for a long time. Most of my videos I show you things I've sewn, or I show you something or a tutorial. This is just a chatty video and I really hope you enjoy it. It's very light-hearted, poking fun at myself. Maybe I'll have some tips in there for you, I don't know, and maybe it'll make you feel not so bad about your sewing, but I do hope you enjoy it. So I've got 5 good points, 5 bad points, and I don't know which one to start with. So let's just go for the bad. Before I start, if you've never met me before or come into my sewing room before, my name is Carole and I have been sewing since I was about 8. I absolutely love it. It's my hobby. It's nothing more than a hobby. I also enjoy other crafting. I learned to sew at school where I did not do very well at all. I did not get on with my sewing teacher. I took it to O-level, which is kind of, you know, the exam level as they were then, and I failed. I failed my sewing O-level. I got a D. Never forgotten that, but it's never put me off. So that's my history. So let's talk about my bad points. Number 1, I drop pins everywhere, and don't worry about it. It's lethal. I used to have a sign up on my door saying caution, sharp objects. You know the symbol they use. But yeah, I drop them and I'm lazy. I don't pick them up there and then. And I know some people will. I don't have any pets in the house anymore, any little children. So there's just myself and my husband. But every now and again, I do go round with a huge magnetic dish, which is actually car mechanics use. And I hoover them up with the dish and then I hoover the room. So I do that about once a week, but yeah, I'm naughty with pins. If I'm sewing something and they drop out, they just drop out and I'll deal with them later. And yes, I do work in here with socked feet. And so far, I've been lucky. So that was point number 1. Point number 2, I leave cutting out the interfacing to the last minute. Now, you know when you have, you're cutting out a pattern and it's trousers, say, so you've got some waistband interfacing or it's a collar on a sleeve. I never cut that out at the beginning when I'm cutting all the fabric out. And it really annoys me and I wish I did, because I just work my way through the pattern and I think, oh no, it needs interfacing. So I then have to re-get the pattern piece out and cut it out. Will I learn my lesson and change? I don't know. I think once I cut it out with a pattern. I don't know what it is, but I just leave cutting out to the last minute of the interfacing and it annoys me because then you're rushing to do it. So that is not very professional of me, I know, but that is one of my bad points without a doubt. My 3rd point is I rush projects. Now I do sew very quickly and it's not that I'm a really bad sew or anything like that, but I just want to get that project done and I want to get on to the next thing, and that is me as my character. Yeah, I'm always just keen to start the next thing. So the last bits of a garment, normally say the hems on trousers, I just want to get that done, and that annoys me when I've got to spend time working out the length of something. And maybe one of my bad points is I'm just too keen to get on to the next thing. The upside of that, I suppose, is I manage to sew a lot of things. But yeah, I can rush too much. The 4th thing, and something my husband picks me up on all the time, is my quality control at the end of the garment. A little connected to the rushing. At the end of sewing a garment, what you should do is go through, neatening all those little bits of threads, tidying anything up, picking all those extra bits of tailor tack out that you put in. And I just tend to be, yay, I finished it. And I show it on my channel and I wear it. And then, a week later, I'll be like, I didn't pull that thread out, or, oh, I need a pair of scissors to chop this thread off. So my husband always laughs at me because he said in a factory, all my garments would go to someone else and they would check them and snip the threads. He said, what happened to that department in your sewing room? So yeah, I would say I need to be a bit more careful and just snip all those ends and just give the whole thing just a look over first before I start wearing it. The last of my bad points is I very rarely secure a seam when I'm starting on the machine. So, you're starting a hem, say, sewing down the side of something, and I've got all the facilities on this machine. I could do, a few of them where it ties it off. I can go backwards and forwards, and I can set it to do that, but I never do. I tend to do it at the end, but I don't do it at the beginning. One of the reasons actually is the fact that my machine can tend to chew up the first few stitches. So if I just go straight, but if I go straight and come back a couple and then go forward, or even if I do that stitch where it does about 6 stitches on the spot, it does tend to chew up the front of the first bit of the seam. Now I have used a sewing spider in the past, which does make it better, but it still doesn't mean your seam will be secure. Now, obviously, if it was something that really needed to be secure, that was isolated, then I would do it without a doubt. But all these seams where it's just side seams and then you're going to sew something over the top or a binding's going to be on there, I never secure the seam. Now, I am hoping there are others out there like me that do the same thing or don't do the same thing. Yes, I do it at the end because I know it's not going to chew it up, but I just sew. In the start, I just sew. So I'd be really interested to hear what other people say, or maybe I'm just thinking about it too much and we all do it that way. I don't know. That's the interesting point. So those were all my bad points, 5 bad points. So let's be positive now and go on to the good points. I think for some of these good points, I'm going to have to put a little bit of film in just to kind of elaborate what I'm talking about. That keeps the video more visual, doesn't it? Less chatty. First of all, my good points is I do a lot of eyeballing. So in other words, when I'm doing a seam, so something like this or that where you have to turn it up an inch or whatever, I never measure it. I do it all visually. And I am quite good at that because I've tested myself in the past. So if I want to fold something up an inch, I think maybe because I've been sewing a long time, I know it's an inch and I'm very often really right. So I'm quite good at eyeballing things, whether they're straight or, I'm quite good at that. So I'm quite proud of myself. I can do, quarter of an inch, half an inch, a centimetre, inch. I'm sure lots of you are the same as me, but I never ever use the seam gauge that I have to measure a seam all the way around before I actually sew it. I eyeball it. So almost as a contradiction to that previous comment about eyeballing, I measure my grain lines against the selvage. That is something I do and I have always done, and I think my sewing teacher instilled that into me. So especially if you've got a pair of trousers, so you've got a long pair of trousers, say a woven fabric or even a jersey fabric, because that can twist, can't it? You've got that long line. I will put in a bit of footage, and you put a pin in the middle of that line and you measure it out to the selvage. You can do it to the folded edge if you've folded it right, and then you measure there, and then you measure one end, you measure the other one, and then you kind of move the pattern piece to make sure it's level. I still do that. And I never miss that out. It just stops garments from twisting or sitting just awkwardly, doesn't it? Or legs twisting and making it unbalanced. But my sewing teacher, although she didn't like me, would be very proud of me that I am still measuring my grain lines. So number 3 of my good points is I mark notches. I always have marked notches. I do it very old school. I have got gazillion marking pens and different methods of doing it, but I still cut my notches. Even if I'm doing an indie pattern where it's just like a little slit, I will still cut my triangle or my double triangle, and I tailor tack. Now, so these are when you've got the points. You could do it with the marker pen, but I love, love, love doing my tailor tacks. I do it the minute I've cut out the pattern, I've got all the pattern pieces still attached, and that is when I do the tailor tacks. I find if I've ever skipped it, I'm really annoyed at myself for having to get the paper pattern back out again and kind of work out where it's meant to be. Yeah, sometimes tailor tacks, you can pull them out by mistake without a doubt, but 99 times out of 100, the tailor tack stays in. Sometimes too hard, because sometimes you really have to yank. If you've sewn over them, you have to yank them out. But without a doubt, I'm really, really good at marking all my notches and things like that. I use a pattern system for storing patterns that lots of people have questioned in the past, but it was an idea I copied from the lovely Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room many, many years ago. So in the drawers behind me, I have all the pattern pieces and instructions in these blank envelopes, and they're all numbered and they're all numerically filed in company. So like New Look, Simplicity, whatever. All the pattern covers are in the files behind me, or in separate sections like dresses or winter tops and things like that. I find to me that is the best way, and I've done it for about 6 or 7 years. That's the best way to keep patterns. If I want to make a top, I know I just go to my top file, I can look through all my tops, just like in a shop with a lookbook, and then I can find the pattern piece. Now, one thing I do in addition, which is what I wanted to say was one of my good points, was the way for myself I keep a record of what I last made from that pattern. I reuse my patterns a lot. So what I will do, and I did just pluck this out randomly, 6197 New Look. So I've got all the pattern pieces in there. Now these would be the ones that I haven't used or didn't use last. But something I did last time round, and this is how it helps me remind me what I've done, is I will fold those pattern pieces up that I used last in the middle of the instructions and put it in the envelope. And the pattern pieces I didn't use will be in there. That just means I know what I made last. So if I want to make the same again, I've got all my pattern pieces that I used for that particular view. What was this one? 6197, I'm sure I should. It's my favourite man's shirt, which I've actually made for myself. So yeah, I probably got that as being the last. So I just find that a really easy way of, if I want to make something again and I know I've just made it, then I know exactly the pattern pieces and I haven't got to shift through all the other pattern pieces to get to it. So yeah, I would say that is another of my good points. The final good point. Now, I'm not trying to sing my praises at all, because you know I've done my bad as well. I very, very rarely give up on a project. I just keep going, and I recently showed that in a pair of trousers I made a couple of weeks ago, that I just kept going. I hate the fact I've left anything, and I can honestly say, apart from one thing I started 5 years ago, I don't have any unfinished projects in my sewing room. That particular thing was a swimsuit, and there is no way I'm finishing that because it was horrendous. It looked diabolical on me. So that's never been finished. I've never thrown it out, but it's never been finished. And that is the only project I can say heart on heart that I have in this room that I haven't completed. Now, this applies to my sewing. I have got lots of crochet projects I haven't finished, or cross stitch, but sewing I keep going to the end, and that is kind of what I really like about myself. I will just keep going. The ulterior motive behind it is the fact that I don't like swapping threads on the overlock of the cover stitch and the machine, so I don't work on 2 projects at the same time. Very, very rarely have I ever done that. I do one project at a time until it's finished, and then I move on. So kind of hold myself back, which is probably why I rush everything, isn't it? So there's only one thing left, and that is the ugly point. And in a way, I know you know what it'll be. My sewing room when I'm working on it is a mess. The floor is a mess. I'm looking down now. I've got bits of fabric, bits of interfacing, pins, you name it, I've got it on the floor. But it does get a good clean about once a week. Everything, because I'm in a rush, because I like working on one project, stuff gets littered everywhere. And I do tidy it. I talked about it ages ago. I do my 3-minute tidy or a 2-minute tidy, where I will set my phone for 3 minutes or 2 minutes, depending how bad it is normally or how much time I have. And that 3 minutes is I go full pelt, tidy, put stuff away. That for me keeps on top of it. Obviously it needs a good clean, deep clean every now and again, but you'll be amazed what you can achieve in those 2-3 minutes, believe me. So that's the ugly. It's my room. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it made you think about your good points, your bad points and your ugly points. At the end of the day, as I said right in the beginning, this is my hobby. I love it. I don't take it too seriously. I love the fact I get garments out of it, and or presents for the children or gifts for people. I love it. I would never do anything to stop me loving my hobby. But this, I really hope you enjoyed this video and my honesty. So thank you so much for joining me. Please join me on #FridaySews or my Fabric Wheel of Fate or a different view, or I can sew that. Just have a look at my channel, see if there's anything else that interests you. Thanks for joining me. I will see you soon. Goodbye for now.